The sky above the royal citadel shimmered with a pale violet glow as dawn crept over the horizon, and the alien queen rose from her chamber balcony with a thoughtful breath, watching the vast expanse of her empire unfold beneath her. Unaware that this day would shift the fate of her world forever, she had taken a human as her husband, not for romance or legend, but for diplomacy, unity, and the quiet hope that peace would hold between two species that had spent generations circling conflict like twin storms. And though the marriage was met with suspicion by her council and outright doubt by her generals, she had held firm in her decision, because she had seen something in him that defied explanation. A steadiness and courage that carried no arrogance. A strength of spirit that needed no declaration. And for many cycles, she believed she understood the full extent of what he was. His name was Lion. A simple name by her standards, yet one that felt warm when spoken aloud. And each day he walked among her people with humility that baffled the court since humans, or whispered to be defiant wanderers who challenged everything they touched. But Lian proved them wrong with gentle actions and quiet determination. Though he remained oddly elusive, whenever discussions turned toward the past or toward the depths of human capability. As if there was something he chose not to reveal on this morning, he stood in the courtyard, hands clasped behind his back as he studied a group of palace guards training with spears and energy pikes. His posture calm yet attentive, and the queen found herself wondering once more why he always observed with such care, as if comparing their methods to some inner metric. Another early start, she said as she joined him. Her voice, soft as the breeze moved the banners above Leon, offered a faint smile and inclined his head in greeting, his eyes reflecting both warmth and a distant focus that never fully left him. "I like seeing how your warriors train," he replied. "It tells me much about your people." She tilted her head, intrigued. "And what have you learned?" "That they rely on order, discipline, and precision," he said. "Good qualities, but they assume their foes will meet them in predictable ways." The queen raised a brow. "And humans do not fight predictably." "Rarely," he answered. It was a simple exchange, nothing grand or dramatic. Yet the tone in his voice lingered in her thoughts even as the day continued and diplomatic tasks demanded her attention. But nothing prepared her for the attack that would strike just as evening approached, and the sun dipped behind the distant crystalline mountain sirens, wailed across the sky as enemy vessels ripped through the clouds, hulking machines of forbidden alloy piloted by a rival faction that sought to seize the crown by force. After years of simmering tension, their weapons scorching the horizon as citizens fled toward fortified shelters, and the queen raced to the command tower while her guards scrambled to defend the capital. The tower shook with the force of the first bombardment, lights flickering as the enemy fleet drew closer, and her generals shouted reports of breached districts and failing lines of defense. Chaos swelling like a wave, ready to swallow the city. Leon arrived beside her without hesitation, wearing simple travel clothing rather than armor, his face calm even as the world around them rattled with explosions. And the queen felt a rare moment of fear because she expected him to be ushered to safety, to remain sheltered as political tradition dictated. Yet he refused to leave her side. "You must go to the lower chambers," she insisted over the roar of alarms. "This is not something you can stand against." Lion looked at her with a clarity that froze her breath. "This is exactly what I must stand against." Before she could protest, he stepped forward, placing his hand gently on her arm, and there was something in his touch that radiated a warmth she had never sensed before, a pulse of energy that sent a faint tremor through the air. And for the first time she wondered whether she had truly understood the nature of humanity at all. "Leon," she whispered, "what are you?" "A human," he said, "but humans carry more than most believe." The tower doors burst open as enemy shock troopers charged inside, clad in armored suits and wielding heavy plasma rifles. and the Queen's guards moved to intercept, blades flashing as they fought to protect their sovereign. Yet the sheer number of attackers threatened to overwhelm the defense line in moments. Then, Lian Muvshi had seen him walk with quiet grace, had seen him lift crates with more strength than expected, but she had never seen him like this. Never witnessed the truth that now unfolded before her eyes. He launched forward with speed that defied natural limits, gripping the nearest attacker and throwing him across the chamber with a force that dented the metal wall. Then he spun and swept another from his feet with a strike that cracked open the soldier's armor. His movements fluid and controlled, yet powerful enough to shake the ground beneath him. The Queen stood rooted in place, astonished as the man she believed she knew fought with a mastery that dwarfed even her elite warriors. Each motion precise, efficient, devastating, and with every strike he delivered a surge of kinetic force, rippled outward like an echo of thunder. "Lian," she called, as more enemies poured into the tower. "How is this possible?" he answered between movements, his voice steady despite the chaos. Human physiology is adaptable beyond what most species record, and humans who train with purpose can achieve levels far beyond assumed limits. But more than that, my people have learned to channel the will to survive into something tangible. He lifted an attacker and slammed him against the floor, creating a shockwave that sent several others tumbling back. We are not the strongest in body or the fastest in reflex, but when humans protect something important, they become something more, something relentless. The Queen watched with amazement as he fought through the ranks of armored troopers, turning the tide of the assault with his bare hands and sheer determination. But the enemy fleet still hovered above the city, and the bombardment continued to hammer the outer districts. And she feared that even Lion's prowess could not stop an entire invasion alone. He paused only long enough to meet her eyes. "I need to reach the surface. The ships above can only be stopped from outside the tower." Her breath caught. "You cannot take down a fleet alone. You underestimate what humans become when everything they care for is at stake," he answered gently. "Stay safe. I will return." Before she could speak, he sprinted toward the balcony and leapt into the open air, falling toward the courtyard below. And she gasped in horror, only to see him land at a crouch that cracked the ground but left him unharmed. Rising with resolve burning in his gaze as he raced toward the city streets, the Queen hurried to follow, descending through the tower until she reached an overlook that gave a clear view of the battlefield. And what she witnessed defied every expectation she had ever held about humanity. Lian ran straight into a battalion of enemy machines, towering constructs with energy cannons mounted on their shoulders. And with a single leap, he reached the nearest machine, tearing open its cockpit and disabling it with impossible precision. Then, using its fallen frame as leverage, he vaulted toward another, moving like a storm, made flesh every instinct she possessed, screamed that such feats were beyond any biological limits. Yet there he was, fighting as if born for this moment. His movements shaped by willpower, so fierce it radiated like heat through the air. The enemy fleet adjusted its formation, focusing weapons on the lone human, tearing through their ground forces, unleashing volleys of plasma that streaked toward him. But Leon reacted with uncanny awareness, weaving between blasts, redirecting energy bursts with metal fragments he seized from fallen machines, each action driven by a blend of instinct and something deeper, something primal. The Queen felt something stir in her chest, a mix of awe and understanding. For now she truly grasped the meaning behind ancient whispers of humanity's boundless potential. Stories dismissed as myth, scattered across star charts like forgotten footnotes, yet embodied now in the husband she once mistook for a quiet diplomat. Lian reached the energy pylons that powered the fleet's shield grid, gripping the core conduit and channeling all his strength into a single strike that shattered the containment ring, sending a luminous wave rippling across the sky. And as the shield collapsed, the enemy fleet faltered. Their vessels exposed and momentarily disoriented, he raised his voice, shouting with a resonance that carried across the city. Now, defenders of this world, take back your sky. Her forces surged into action, launching counterfire that pierced the vulnerable ships. And one by one, the enemy vessels erupted into arcs of light that faded against the darkening horizon, until finally the sky grew silent, and the invasion faltered completely. The Queen descended to the courtyard as the last echoes of battle faded, her steps unsteady as she approached Leon, who stood amid the wreckage, breathing heavily, yet still strong enough to remain upright. Dust and light clinging to him like the remnants of a fading storm, she reached him slowly, eyes wide with wonder. "Why did you hide this from me?" Leon exhaled and looked at her with gentle sincerity. "Because I wanted to live peacefully by your side, not as a weapon, not as a legend, but as your partner. And I hoped I would never need to reveal this part of me." She stepped closer, her voice quiet yet filled with emotion. "You saved my people, my world, and you fought with a strength I did not believe possible. Not even in stories. Humans are strange," he said with a weary smile. The medical wing of the orbital clinic drifted in silence above a glowing blue planet, its curved halls alive with faint lights and the soft hum of machines. John stepped through the entrance, with one hand tucked into the pocket of his jacket, trying to appear calm, even though his pulse ran faster than he liked. He had been told that this would be a simple follow-up scan. Nothing more. Just a checkup to confirm that his adjustment to the station's atmosphere remained stable. He expected a few minutes of mild discomfort, a little scanning, and then freedom to return to his temporary quarters. Instead, he found himself walking into something far more complicated. Mira, the alien nurse assigned to the human ward, turned her head when she sensed him approach. Her posture straightened in a way that suggested she had rehearsed this moment more than once. She carried herself with the calm precision of her species, tall and slender with smooth violet skin and eyes that gleamed like polished silver. John always found it difficult to tell whether she was amused, irritated, or deeply concerned. Her expression rarely changed in ways humans recognized. Even so, she inclined her head in a polite greeting that he had come to understand as her version of a smile. He lifted his hand in a half wave. He tried to speak lightly, but could not quite disguise his unease. He said that he was here for the follow-up and hoped it would go quickly. Myra motioned for him to follow her into an examination chamber. The door slid shut behind them with a soft click that echoed through the small room. A single scan bed rested at its center. Transparent panels on the walls displayed complex symbols that shifted like living ink. John could not read any of them, but he knew they were monitoring his presence. Myra gestured toward the scan bed. John sat down and tried to relax while Myra adjusted a circular device that hovered above his chest. She instructed him to breathe slowly. The machine activated with a gentle hum that warmed the air round him. Light gathered like a halo, scanning his body from head to toe. John had gone through this process before, but something about today felt different. Myra's attention held a sharper edge than before. She analyzed the shifting symbols on her console with tense focus. Her silver eyes narrowed. John asked if something was wrong. Myra hesitated. She avoided speaking until the scan completed. When the device finally dimmed and floated away, she pressed both hands against the console and inhaled deeply. She explained that traces of something new had been detected in his physiology. She advised that it required further examination. John felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He had only come for a simple checkup. Now his heart hammered as Myra pressed a panel on the wall and summoned a cluster of floating data modules. When the shimmering blocks of light gathered around her, she began arranging them with swift motions that almost resembled a dance. Each piece of data clicked into place like a puzzle. John watched in confusion until a holographic projection formed beside her. It displayed an image of his own cellular structure. It glowed brightly. Myra pointed at the glowing strands, weaving through his cells. She explained that the new traces resembled encoded energy patterns. They did not belong to her species or any known species within the clinic's jurisdiction. The energy reacted to his presence alone. It was as if it recognized him. John whispered that he had no idea what that meant. Myra stepped closer. She examined him again with a gaze heavy with curiosity and concern. She informed him that the clinic must determine if the new trace posed a danger. Her voice then softened. She also admitted that the data showed something even stranger. The energy did not merely attach itself to his cells. It had organized them. It followed a structure that resembled classified files. She explained that the clinic's systems had automatically flagged him as a restricted data source. John frowned. He asked what that meant. Mira replied that the clinic had reclassified him. His body now stored information, like a secure record. John blinked. He tried to understand. He asked if she meant that he had become a living file. Myra nodded. She said that something had converted his biological structure into a repository. She warned that the system had already reacted. Protocol required immediate containment. John stood up quickly and stepped back. He demanded to know how that could happen. Myra raised both hands, urging him to remain calm. She explained that she had already locked the internal system to prevent automatic alerts from spreading. If the system transmitted his status to the local command, he could be placed under strict isolation. She repeated that she wanted to prevent that outcome if possible. John stared at her. He tried to swallow the fear that climbed his throat. He asked what she planned to do. Mira paced around the room, as if processing multiple lines of thought at once. Her long fingers moved between consoles. She told him that they needed to determine what information his body held. The clinic system recognized it as highly confidential. A single mistake could trigger higher-level alarms. She explained that a containment squad might respond if they believed he housed strategic data. John exhaled sharply. He said he had never wanted to be part of anything sensitive. He had come only for a health check. Myra paused. She turned toward him and said she believed him. She approached him with slow confidence. She reached toward a hidden panel in the wall and activated a secondary diagnostic chamber. A dome-shaped device emerged from the floor. She instructed John to step inside. She assured him she would stay with him throughout the process. John hesitated. He did not like the idea of stepping into something that resembled a containment pod. Mira repeated that it was necessary to identify the unknown imprint. John nodded reluctantly and entered the device. The dome closed around him. The interior lights shifted into a soft blue. Myra activated the next scan. Light rippled through the chamber like waves across a calm sea. John felt a faint tingling through his arms and legs. His vision blurred. Images flickered in his mind. They were not memories of his own. They resembled maps, coordinates, and diagrams of structures floating in deep space. He gasped. The images pressed against his thoughts with unnatural clarity. Mira called out, asking if he was stable. John answered shakily that he could see something. Mira urged him to describe it. John tried to explain the strange visions. As he spoke, Mira projected a holographic recorder above her console. His description sensed the scanner's readings. The chamber responded to his words. It displayed holographic snapshots of the images in his mind. Myra studied each one. Her silver eyes widened. She recognized the symbols. They belonged to an ancient survey archive believed lost for generations. The archive detailed uncharted regions of space, and hidden stations built before her species joined the larger alliance. Such information had been missing for centuries. John asked how such data could possibly be in him. Myra answered that something must have implanted it after his previous visit. She recalled a malfunction in the station's data hub during his first appointment. She had dismissed it as a harmless glitch. Now she realized that the hub must have redirected its backup to the nearest viable host. John had been in the room. John pressed his hands against the interior of the dome. He asked if the archive was dangerous. Mira replied that it depended on who learned of its existence. Some factions across the system would covet such knowledge. Others would fear it. Myra lowered her voice and said that if the clinic declared him a living archive, he would lose all freedom. John felt a chill run through him. He asked what they should do. Mira stepped to the console. Her fingers hovered above a series of controls. She explained that she could rewrite the system's classification. If she masked his biological imprint, the system would no longer treat him as a file. However, she warned that the process carried risks. The energy in his cells might resist alteration. It could destabilize his memory. It could distort the data inside him. John listened while forcing himself to breathe slowly. He asked if there was any safe alternative. Myra hesitated before admitting that there was none. John closed his eyes. He said that he trusted her. Myra startled slightly at his words. Trust carried significant meaning in her culture. She steadied her tone and thanked him. She activated the override procedure. The dome's interior lights shifted into a deep violet glow. John felt the energy inside him respond. It pushed back like a tide resisting the shore. His body shook as the imprint fought to remain intact. Mira adjusted the controls to stabilize the resonance. Panels sparked. The energy whirled around John in powerful spirals. He clenched his teeth and strained against the rising pressure. Mira worked with swift precision. She recalibrated the chamber repeatedly. The energy pulsed once, twice, then broke like a wave. The lights faded. John slumped against the interior supports. Myra rushed to open the dome and steadied him. She asked if he could stand. John nodded weakly. He said that the visions had stopped. The glow in his cells dimmed, leaving only faint traces. Mira checked the console. She exhaled with relief. The system no longer flagged him. The classification had cleared. He was no longer a confidential file. John let out a shaky laugh. He thanked her. Myra replied that she had only done what was necessary to help him. Yet she did not look entirely relieved. John noticed her hesitation. He asked if something remained wrong. Myra studied the readings again.